Um, Back in 2017, I wrote a stand-up comedy show for the Edinburgh Festival Fringe. It lasted an hour. I performed it every day for 3 weeks to audiences ranging from a massively scary capacity crowd of like 70 people to an even scarier crowd of 4 people, which is less of a stand-up show and more of a conversation in the back room of a pub. Um, the show was called Mind Your Head. It was billed as a stand-up show about mental health. I started it every day by reading out a list of trigger warnings. So I'm going to do that now because I want you to know that this is a safe space, is a comfortable space. I am going to talk about some stuff that might be triggering, might be worrying. So I'm going to give you some trigger warnings. The talk will contain some of these themes. If these are too much for you, it's absolutely fine to log off. I don't want you to feel uncomfortable about that. That's absolutely fine. So trigger warnings, some themes that could crop up during this talk that might worry you or might trigger you include suicide, self-harm, mental health problems in general, puns, niche pop culture references, the singer-songwriter Gary Barlow, and bananas. So if any of those things worry you, then please don't worry about it. That's absolutely fine. So I'd start my show every day by playing Happy by Pharrell, the song, and I'd get the audience to clap along and sing along because that song is scientifically proven to sort of boost your endorphins. It's true, you can look it up. There is science behind Happy making you happy, and it would get people really cheerful. I'd get them to whoop and I'd get them to cheer and I'd get them to feel really, really excited and get them in the right headspace to start this show about mental health I'd written. So I can't do that now, obviously, but I just want you to kind of feel that yourselves. Imagine you're really happy. Imagine you're really excited. Imagine you're about to see an amazing stand-up comedy show and you're cheering and whooping and everything's going to be brilliant. And that's the right headspace to begin this performance. So I'm going to do some of the show for you and then we're going to talk a bit about it. So without further ado, so imagine you're cheering, imagine you're whooping, imagine you're excited. Imagine I walk on stage at that point and say, so in 2004, I tried to kill myself. Spoiler alert, unsuccessful. Tried to kill myself a lot over the years. There was a time I took 3 packets of ibuprofen and downed them with half a bottle of Jack Daniels. That didn't work. I'm not cool enough to down half a bottle of Jack Daniels. I just threw the whole thing back up, which made me feel horrible and gave me a massive headache, which is awful because I'd just thrown up all of the ibuprofen. There was a time I tried to drop a toaster in the bath. Now, I don't know if you're aware, but you cannot plug a toaster in a British bathroom. We don't have plugs. It's health and safety gone mad. You can in America, I know that, the land of the free, but you can't in Britain. Now, you might think, Mark, why didn't you use an extension lead? And I could have used an extension lead, you're right, but my extension lead was plugged into my computer, and my computer was downloading season 3 of The Wire. There was a time I tried to throw myself in front of a train. When that didn't work, I tried to throw myself in front of a replacement bus service. It missed. Now, on this particular occasion, I tried to throw myself out of a window, a 3rd-story attic window where I was living at the time. But the window only opened about 6 inches. I managed to squeeze myself about halfway through before getting wedged with the window latch in my belly button and my legs dangling back in the room like Winnie the Pooh in a rabbit hole. And at that point, my housemate walked in. Now, what I should have been thinking was, oh God, this is awful. The seriousness of the situation, the kind of severity of what I was attempting to do. What actually I was thinking was, oh my God, I am never going to live this down. My housemate took me to hospital and I was taken to a psychiatric ward, which is probably where I needed to be. Now, you might think that suicide, depression, mental health is a depressing theme for a comedy show, right? Like, comedy isn't that. Comedy is chickens crossing roads. It's Doctor, Doctor, I feel like a pair of curtains. It's slipping on banana skins. But we should do comedy about what's prescient in our lives, and mental health problems are prescient in our lives. We can't escape from them. They're like the British singer-songwriter Gary Barlow. They are depressing and they are there. And we can't ignore them. So it's a subject for comedy. Everything should be. Suicide is the #1 killer of young men under 30 in this country. The #1 killer of young men in this country is suicide, right? 1 in 4 British people will experience mental health problems, right? 1 in 4. Think about that. Out of Goldilocks and the 3 bears, one of them had a mental health issue. It was Goldilocks. She was a kleptomaniac and she spoke to bears. At the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, one of them had a mental health issue. We don't know which one. There's a clue in the song, though. Leonardo leads, Donatello does machines, Raphael is cool but crude, and Michelangelo is a party dude. It's one of the last two. They're overcompensating. Actually, it's April O'Neil. She literally has sex with turtles. One of the Teletubbies has a mental health problem. One of the Teletubbies has... Actually, thinking about it, all of the Teletubbies have mental health problems. Now, that means you could take the one depressed member out of the bands, the Four Tops, the Four Seasons, the Four Non-Blondes, and the boy band Five, because there's only four of them now, which is in itself is hilarious. You could take one of those people and you can make your own depressed supergroup, a group I could belong to. I quite like this idea of forming a depressed supergroup, a mentally unwell supergroup, a group that I could be a member of. So I've been trying to think of names for my mentally unwell, depressed supergroup. So I've come up with some names. See what you think. That band could be called Depressed Mode, or OCDC, or Florence and the Multiple Personality Disorder, or Frankie Goes to Hospital, or Jane's Addicted. I've got loads of these, by the way. Or the Arcade Tire, or the Manic Depressed Street Preachers, or the Grateful Dead Inside, or Obsessive Compulsive Maneuvers in the Dark, or Panic at the Disco, or Panic Attack at the Disco, or Manic at the Disco, Borderline Personality New Order, Destiny's Suppressed Childhood Trauma, the Jackson 5 Stages of Grief, the Four Top themselves. That would usually get an ooh noise if there was a live audience in the room. Adam and the Anxious, the Blank Eyed Peas, or the Smiths. So, singing such songs as "You're Simply Depressed," "Ba ba ba," "Can't Read My Bipolar Face," and "Might As Well Jump." A bit much. And that's how I'd start the show, right? That's how the show would begin. And now I know that seems quite frivolous and silly and possibly a little bit insensitive, but there's a point to it, right? I knew that people would be coming to this show knowing that it was about mental health, and they would probably be worried, and it would be going to be a bit maudlin and a bit serious. And I wanted to open the show with the worst thing that had ever happened to me and make it as silly as I possibly could. I wanted the audience to know that they were in safe hands, that this was going to be wasn't going to be a sob story. That was really important to me, because the bit about attempting suicide was true. And the bit about failing at it and going to hospital was true. And the bit about suicide being the #1 killer of young people in the UK was true. And the bit about 1 in 4 people having a mental health problem isn't true. It's closer to 1 in 3. In my opinion, it's probably 1 in 1. So the idea of the show came from that, right? I wanted to destigmatize it. I wanted people to feel better about it. Because going to hospital is scary. Right, it is scary. I went to a psychiatric ward. I was there for a while, and it's a scary place. It's not as scary as it is on telly. It's not Arkham Asylum, right? It's not One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. It's nothing like Arkham Asylum, apart from that girl with the pink and blue hair and the massive mallet. Although that might just have been my wife coming to visit, or that time Batman punched me in the face. It's not like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Now, if you've not seen One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, brilliant, brilliant movie, right? It's where Jack Nicholson is sent to a psychiatric hospital with Danny DeVito, Wormtongue from Lord of the Rings, Doc Brown from Back to the Future, and a terrifying evil nurse who is kind of sexy in a dominatrixy way and looks absolutely nothing like Sarah Paulson. And also in the hospital, there's the Chief, a giant Native American man, huge guy who never speaks. And he becomes like a symbol of hope and defiance for the other characters at the end of the movie. Because when white people make films, they like minorities to be quiet and kind of about them. But real psych wards aren't like that. They're not like austere. They're not scary. I mean, they're more comfortable. They're like dormitories, really. When I was there, it was more like being in Hogwarts. There were beds, and there were dormitory beds and comfy armchairs. It was like Hogwarts if Harry Potter had borderline personality disorder, which would explain the plot of book 5. That joke only works if you understand the symptoms of borderline personality disorder and the plot of Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. If you do know those two things, and I can make that joke because I have borderline personality disorder, then that was an excellent and well-observed joke. I wish I knew who wrote those Harry Potter books. So yeah, but I was there, right? And they're not scary places. In fact, they're not like primary schools. They do everything to make it impossible to hurt yourself. Like the mugs and the cutlery are all plastic. The electrical sockets are all covered up. You can't get a toaster anywhere near the bathroom. All the signs are written in like Comic Sans fonts. It's like being back at infant school. They take away your ability to hurt yourself. It is quite literally health and safety gone mad. But there is something that's scary there, right? It's not the one flew over the cuckoo's nest thing. It's what people think about it. It's the stigma. The stigma is scary. On my first night there, the doctor very specifically asked me if I understood what it means to be admitted to a ward. He basically is saying, do you accept the stigma? Because as soon as you tell people, they think cuckoo's nest, you know, they think that sort of thing. And I wanted to kind of dispel that myth, because actually these places are ridiculous and silly things happen in them. For example, when I first got to the hospital, when I first got to the ward, I noticed two things straight away, right? One was that it looked like Harry Potter. And two was that the guy in the bed next to me, and I promise this is true, was genuinely a 6'5" Native American man. That really happened. Now, I don't know. Either that means that I was seeing things and this was probably in the right place, or it means that all psychiatric facilities are issued as standard a giant Native American man and one flew over the cuckoo's nest is just remarkably well observed. But it gets more ridiculous than that, because I'd got quite anxious. I'd got an anxiety issue, and it had given me a twitch in my eye. You know, I'm sure you've had that if you've ever had anxiety, a twitch, a little wink. It makes life quite difficult when you've got a wink you can't control. Like, you know, like there's jobs you just can't do when you've got a wink that you cannot control. You can't be a professional poker player. People will always get you. You know, you can't be a doctor. I'm sorry, it's bad news. Like, it just doesn't work. So I'd gone to the hospital and I sat down being spoken to by this doctor, and he said, are you okay? Is everything going to be all right? And I said, I'm absolutely fine. And he said, you're not taking this seriously. And something in my brain went click, because I realized it was funny. I was like, I hadn't meant to make a joke, but I'd done one. And I thought, that's kind of brilliant. That's kind of funny. So I was like, okay, the next thing I say is going to be funny. I'm going to be funny on purpose. And I waited for the next question the doctor would ask me. And I was like, the next thing I'm going to say will be a zinger. It'll be brilliant. It'll be hilarious. And the doctor said, right, we need some basic tests for you. How is your hearing? And I said, pardon. Not my best joke, but it was all I could do at the time. I wasn't very well. And the doctor said, oh, you're not taking this serious enough. And I tried to explain. I was like, doctor, you don't understand. It's like outside there is breeze and there is light and there is air, and inside there's nothing. There's stillness, and that's where I am. There's stillness and darkness, and outside there's breeze and light and air and joy and fun, and I can't get to it. Something is blocking the breeze. Something is blocking the light, right? And I realized it's me. I am blocking the breeze. I am blocking the light. I am the thing. I am the barrier that's stopping this stuff getting in. I'm just like split in two, dangling there, blocking out all the light. And the doctor said, Mr. Burrows, are you trying to tell me that you feel like a pair of curtains? And I said, yes. Any advice you'd like to give me about that? He didn't say it. If you don't know the joke, Doctor, I feel like a pair of curtains, the punchline is pull yourself together. So, but I wanted to make people laugh. That was my goal. That became my goal in the mental health facility. I wanted to make people laugh, to make myself feel better. That's the only way I could think of to get around it. But the problem is, like I said, everything was very safe. Everything was very nailed down. There's nothing you can do. But I found one thing I could control, one thing that could be for me, right? I found a fruit bowl. They replenished it every week, every day with fresh fruit. And I thought, brilliant. This is a gift from the comedy gods. I am going to slip over on a banana skin. Classic brilliance. I'll slip over in a banana skin. And I got obsessed with this idea of doing it perfectly, doing it properly, like Buster Keaton, like Charlie Chaplin. And it was going to be brilliant. I was going to, like, if it killed me, I didn't care. I'd go out dying. And I've died making people laugh many times. And I was like, so I was going to do it. And I've tried to find the right time, the right place, the right banana. I hoarded the bananas. I ate all of the bananas. I ate far too much banana. I did not need that much potassium. For a start, I was already taking lithium. It was like a year 9 science class. But eventually I found the right time, the right occasion. There was a shiny floor. It was just after breakfast. There were people coming around the corner, but they weren't there yet. This was going to be it. This was going to be my moment. This was my time to shine. And I put the banana skin on the floor and I waited, and they came around the corner, about 6 people. And I stepped forward and my heel dug into the banana skin, and it was beautiful. It was perfect. My legs shot forward like it was on a roller skate, and I went backwards like that. Crack, my head went like that. And I laid on the ground and I waited. And I waited, and no one laughed. No one laughed. Not a dicky bird, nothing, not a sausage. Except me. I laughed. I laughed and laughed and laughed and laughed. I like tears streaming down my face. And because it was so ridiculous, because I'd done it, it just bursted down, and possibly because of the concussion, no one else laughed. Mostly because somebody lying on the floor and laughing hysterically is just not that unusual in a psychiatric ward. So eventually I left hospital, or at least I hope I did. That would make a lot of sense for 2020, actually. And things started to get better, right? I was on medication that started to work. I moved to London. I started to work in the media. I started doing comedy. I got married because making people laugh made me feel better. And the thing is, that stigma still hasn't gone away. We haven't defeated the stigma. Like, mental health problems are still here. I mean, if you watch any TV show, if you look at any newspaper, people with mental health issues are always represented by what we call head clutches. People doing this. Like, it's just the stigma again. It makes you think that everyone who has a mental health issue is doing this all the time. And we're not doing this all the time. It makes you look like you've got a headache. All you need to cure your issues is some ibuprofen. And what I learned is you cannot cure mental health problems with ibuprofen. It's ridiculous. And then we're not like that. We're not like that. You don't, like, people who are suffering and struggling don't always look like they're suffering and struggling. Look at children's TV presenters. They're always smiling, and they are definitely dead inside. At the beginning of the talk, I said this wasn't why did the chicken cross the road, right? But that is not strictly true. Recently, I learned that there's some dispute about that joke. Why did the chicken cross the road to get to the other side? Some people think it's absurd. It's just a silly joke. It's doesn't mean anything. There's another interpretation. Why did the chicken cross the road to get to the other side, to pass over to the other side, to die and go to the other side, to step out into traffic, kill himself and go to the other side? Mind blown. Why did the chicken cross the road is a pun about somebody with mental health problems, right? The oldest joke ever, the joke we tell children, hidden in plain sight. And it's not a cruel joke. We're not laughing at the chicken. We're just doing a pun about his day. And I doubt the chicken minded. And maybe we're wrong. Maybe the chicken didn't want to kill himself. Maybe they just left the banana skin in the middle of the road and they wanted to make themselves feel better. Like, my mental health is slipping on banana skins. It is Doctor, I feel like a pair of curtains. It is chickens crossing roads. Like, we can laugh at ourselves. And that doesn't make the situation less serious, but it does make it less frightening. I'm going to be like this forever. It's never going to change. I'm going to have periods of excitement and elation and periods of depression and being down. That's just me. Like millions of people all over the world. And that is fine. I'm fine with that. I'm not a danger to you. You shouldn't laugh at someone's mental health, but you can laugh with them. And that's how we make the world a better place. Thank you. That's that. I probably rushed through that extremely quickly, but I've just about finished in time. You've been really well. I assume you've been lovely. There isn't an audience to know, but yeah, follow me on Twitter and stuff if you enjoyed that. But it's really important, and this stuff means a lot to me. And I think Candice did an amazing job with what we're doing this week. So yeah, watch more of these talks. And thank you for your time. I'm going to go and lie down and then get back to work. Thank you.